Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. Inshallah, this is going to be our video continues 17F. This is going to be video 17F. And today we're going to be talking about Isa alayhi salam. Sorry, you know what? I apologize. Isa alayhi salam. And of course, Jesus, peace be upon him. Okay. We know that Isa alayhi salam was born without a father, and he was given the title of Ruhullah. Ruhullah, meaning that he is the spirit of God. What does that mean? Is Ruhullah? I'm sure there's a lot of material on this and different interpretations, but in my humble way that I can explain this is Ruhullah is because when Isa alayhi salam is created without a father to Maryam alayhi salam, Isa ibn Maryam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the ruh down via or through angel Jibreel alayhi salam, and so he brought that ruh down to Maryam alayhi salam. And so this is another way of looking at it, that it's ruhullah, that is the ruh that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and into Maryam alayhi salam, that was blown to her. So basically, and that's how she conceived Isa alayhi salam. Anyway, so that would be the title for that, for Isa alayhi salam. Now, what are some of the qualities or bullet points that we can keep in mind? That would be one of them. This is the second one. The third one is that he spoke from the cradle to the people. Spoke from the cradle to the people. So when Maryam alayhi salam was expecting and she was about to, deliver Isa alayhi salam, she just left where she used to stay, the city, the town that she was. She left to a far, far away place, in seclusion, that there was no one around, so where she had to give birth. And now she has Isa alayhi salam with her, and in her arms, and Allah's telling her that you need to go back to your, where you live. And she's so concerned that, what am I going to say to all these people, to my family, everybody? What are they going to think? And everybody knows that I am, a siddiqa, and she's a virgin. She did nothing. No man has ever touched her. So how am I supposed to explain all of this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling her that it's okay. When you get there, you just point to Isa alayhi salam, and he will take care of everything. So that's when she goes back to her family, and on the way, people are telling her all kinds of stuff, and people are just, some people are curious, some people are being very rude and mean, and they're saying, bad things to her. And like, how can you do something like this? Your mother was a siddiqa, and your father was a good person, and on and on and on and on. And it's like, how did this happen? Where did this happen? And so all these questions, and she stays quiet, and she points to Isa alayhi salam in her arms. And of course, Isa alayhi salam, at that point, he speaks out, and he says that Ana Abdullah, and meaning that I am abd, the slave of Allah, and I'm going to be a messenger, or I am a messenger, you know, all of that stuff. So he talks to the people from the cradle. So he's one of the, I think there's three kids in total, if I'm not mistaken, three kids in total, like three babies that spoke in childhood, and Isa alayhi salam was one of them. And I apologize, I can't recall the other two, but anyhow, so that was one of the specialties to him, that he spoke from the cradle to the people. And then he was given many miracles. And okay, let's see, for example, he was able to, bring the dead back to life. Everything that's happening, all these miracles, please keep in mind that all of these miracles are happening with the will of Allah. As he says himself in the Quran, as he's mentioning, that I can do this, bi-idhnillah. I can do this, bi-idhnillah. Bi-idhnillah meaning that with the permission of Allah, with the will of Allah. If Allah wills it, then this will happen. So he says that he's not saying that I'm doing all of this. He says, I can give life to this, but with the permission of Allah. So that means that he made out of mud a little bird, in the shape of a bird. And then he blew on it, and that piece of mud in the shape of a bird, by the will of Allah, turned into a live bird, and it flew. So this is giving a life to the dead. Basically, it was nothing, a piece of clay, and he fashioned it into a shape of bird, and then bi'idhnillah, and it just turned into a bird, and it just flew away. And he was giving let's just put this, bring dead to life. And then he cured the blind, by putting his hand over their eyes, and then of course then they become, they can see again by bi'idhnillah. And then he was able to cure, what is it? Yeah, leprosy. Back then, that was a big thing, and a disease that was, people would be an outcast. They would put these people far, far away from the communities, because nobody wanted to do anything, had to do anything with these kind of people, because, it's contagious, and these were like outcasts. So from the society, they were just shunned away somewhere. But Isa alayhi salam was able to cure them, just by touching them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cured them. Also, he was given the Injil, which is it's the gospel, or like today we call it the Bible. But so that was and Injil is in the Arabic, we call it Injil, and then gospel is in English. Okay, so he was given that book, and of course, as most of the prophets, the message of Isa alayhi salam was not taken very well. He had a small group of people that followed him. He had his followers, the Hawariyun, who followed him, and they were committed to him. But then, of course, because excuse me, because the Jews of that time were expecting a prophet to come, but they were not expecting Isa alayhi salam. They didn't accept him. So they started this rumor that, he is not a real prophet. He claims to be a prophet, and he's taking people to the wrong path, or he's turning people away from God to the wrong path. And of course, his lineage, they're astaghfirullah, they were saying, bad things about Maryam alayhi salam, that she was not a good person, and that's how she is Isa alayhi salam. So all of these things, they're coming up with all of these things to give Isa alayhi salam the the bad name, and miscredit him, give him a bad credit in the eyes of the people. And of course, the Romans at that time were in charge, and then they assigned that, okay, then we're going to have to crucify him. That was the way of killing people at that time, was by crucifixion, on the cross, and putting the hands and the feet and nailing it down. And then that's what happened. So he was supposedly, according to them, was crucified. But we, in the Muslim tradition, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an that he was not crucified, nor was he killed, but he was raised to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in whole, meaning completely nothing was harmed to him. He was raised to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about the age of 30 or 33 years old. And it is said that in his place there was another man that was made to look like Isa alayhi salam, took his place, and that person was on the cross. And of course, that person was probably a person that did a bad thing against Isa alayhi salam and caused the whole thing to happen. So Allah knows well, Allah knows best, but that's the narration, that's how it goes. And then, as we know, that Isa alayhi salam was supposed to be coming back to earth towards the end of times, and then he would be getting rid of the cross and destroying, getting rid of the pig, or the that is commonly eaten, and it's the cross is something that is created on his behalf. He has never said anything like that, like the little thing that is born. He never said that, or certain things that are created after him that he had nothing to do with. So when he comes back, he will rectify that, clarify all of that, and he will say that he is the servant of Allah, and he has never said to worship him, as a prophet. A prophet is not allowed to say that. He is never said that. So anyway, so when he comes back to earth, as we're all waiting for him, the Christians are waiting for him, the Muslims are waiting for him, that he is coming back at the end of times and to fix everything, correct everything, and he will lead. People will be following him. Of course, he's going to be anyone who submits his will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then, and you abstain from bad things, then automatically, by default, you are a Muslim. What does Muslim mean? Muslim, it's not associated with what you hear in the media, this horrible thing. No, Muslim, the meaning of Muslim means it's someone that submitted themselves to one supreme being, like God. That's the definition of a Muslim. Has nothing else to do with anything else. You could be somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know anything, but you know that there's one supreme being up there, and you believe in him alone, then you are a Muslim. And you abstain from all the bad things that we all know that we're not supposed to do: stealing, cheating, lying, backbiting, and all of these things that we know. So if you automatically abstain from all this stuff and submit your will to Allah, to God only, then by default you are a Muslim, someone who has submitted themselves. That's what that means. So when he does come back down, so he would be a Muslim because he has submitted himself to Almighty God. And then he was supposed to come, and he's supposed to fight against uh, Antichrist, which in Muslim tradition we call it a Dajjal. All of these things happen, and during his time, once that's done, then he will also will get rid of Ya'juj and Ma'juj and Gog and Magog in that situation when all of these things are coming at the end of time, and he will get rid of those, fight with those, get rid of the Antichrist, and then during his time where he will live on this earth, there will be a lot of peace and tranquility and growth, and everything. The whole world would be an abundance of everything, with whether it's fruits or vegetations or the animals and everything. It is said that at those times, the animals would basically, like a snake would sit with a mouse, or a lion is sitting with a cat or something. And so the point is that there's no fear of anything. Is everybody's getting along. Everybody, it's a world of peace and love, and that kind of thing. And it says that the earth will bear fruits, and the peels of it are so massive that 2-3 people can sit under its shade. And so these are the times that are coming in the far future, when Salam comes back down to earth. These are things that will be happening. And then when he as everybody has to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that everybody has to taste death on this earth, because he was raised up in the heavens and he didn't die. So, but when he comes back down, and it is said that he will marry and he will have children and all of that, and then he will pass away at whatever age that is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then after that, then the earth will start to go back to the corruption and the horrible evil things of it that's happening until the last time where someone says La ilaha illallah, and then if that stops, then that's pretty much just basically the end of the world. So this was the story of Isa alayhi salam, and hopefully we learned something, little bits and pieces here. And then we will actually, I've got a couple more things to talk about before we end the video, so I don't need to make another video. And these are on a separate note. Let's just see here. We talked about all the prophets, and then the opponents, the list that we're talking about. Of course, we have Pharaoh, the Pharaoh. And then we already kind of talked about Pharaoh, the Pharaoh. This happens usually. We read a lot about it, about him in the story of Musa alayhi salam, Moses, and the Pharaoh and the whole thing. And he was a tyrant on the land. He abused and used the Israelites for his benefit and purpose. And he did whatever he could, and he used them as slaves and whatnot. So he was a tyrant, basically, as we know it from the Qur'an, that he was a tyrant on the land. And also keep in mind that Fir'aun, it's a title. There was not just one Fir'aun. So like if we hear Fir'aun, we automatically think that, oh, it's Fir'aun and the Musa. Well, yeah, but Fir'aun is just a title. So his name was something else, but Fir'aun is the title that is given because it's like a king or something at that time, like King so and so and King so and so. So it was Fir'aun so and so. So that's how it works on that. And let's see. Then we have the most popular word that we have also in the Quran is shaitan. 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 And then we have shayateen. Shayateen is, of course, the plural. Shaitan is the singular. And I don't need to explain this. This is pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure we all know that shaitan is in English we call him the devil, and shayateen would be the devils. That's the translation. All right, and I think this is pretty much it. And inshallah, we're gonna go ahead and stop here until our next video. Assalamu alaikum.